there's one more. Was it? It's the first book I pull out. Was it? Not that one. Not that one. I know it's here somewhere. Is it this one? Ha! I read 8 books in the month of January, and if I continue to read 8 books the entire month or the entire year each month, then I will meet my reading goal. So I started off totally average, right where I need to be, and for the first time in my life I'm okay with being average. Also, I'm going to tell you what books are coming out in February that I'm really excited about. There aren't that many coming out in February, but we'll talk about it. To start with, let's do the really easy ones first. I did a reread of Fourth Wing, and I just cleaned up some of my tabs, got to correct myself, which is so much fun. Like, tabbing is such a delight and so much fun, and I just really enjoy myself when I do it, especially when I'm done and I get to have like a finished tab book. Mwah! There is nothing better, except for the fact when you get to reread a book that you have tabbed and annotated, and you get to correct yourself and read all the little funny things that you've written. And these books, I mean, I enjoy these books. They're really, really fun, especially on rereads. But they aren't like, you know, my favorite books of all time. But I do have like the Witchwalker reread and rereading Crescent City and stuff, which is just gonna, and like rereading Hofast is just gonna be an absolute blast and delight. And that's what this got me excited for. So like rereading Iron Flame and then reading Onyx Storm really just made me excited to reread the Witchwalker series, because book 4 is coming out this year. We don't have a date. For some reason, Goodreads says that it's coming out in April. It's not coming out in April. We don't have a date yet. It was supposed to come out this spring, but the author's child was sick and things got pushed. And she also has some really exciting things going on in the background, so it did get pushed, but it'll be worth it in the end. And we love Teresa, and we will follow her to the ends of the earth. But my Witch Collector tab read that I did the first time, now almost 2 years ago, was some of my best work I've ever done. Truly, I left the most unhinged things, and I know going back and rereading them is gonna be so much fun. Wait, but I'm telling you that but I did reread Fourth Wing and Iron Flame and Onyx, and I read Onyx Storm. The reread for Fourth Wing went by really fast. I'd already reread it in lead up for Iron Flame. So this was my 3rd read of Fourth Wing. Iron Flame was my 2nd read, and it was so much fun to go through and just see all that really delicious and great foreshadowing that Rebecca Yarros is really like phenomenal at. I do give her all the credit. She is very good at foreshadowing, and she makes it really fun. My read of Onyx Storm was actually kind of funny because I was in Las Vegas when it came out, and Las Vegas is it 4? It's 4 hours behind me, but my Kindle is set to Eastern Standard Time, so I did get it at like 9 o'clock. Was it not? No, then didn't Rebecca Yarros like break the internet a little bit? Like, books didn't go out when they were supposed to, but I did get it before midnight. I got it like 10 o'clock when I was supposed to get it like an hour earlier. That doesn't matter. It was still earlier than what I would have gotten it at home. So I started reading it that night, but I was traveling and I just wasn't giving it the attention I really should have given it. So I didn't really read. I mean, I read like a little bit off and on, but I was like, I'm not sure I really want to read the ending while I'm like on a plane, you know, that would be kind of crazy, but it is the book that I'm reading right now, and it'd feel weird if I was trying to read something else. It just wasn't like, the timing was really bad for me for this release and all my traveling. But I read it when I got home. I read like a good chunk of it on the plane, and then I finished when I got home, and it was good. It was solidly Rebecca Yarros, and that's what I'll say on that. Speaking of plane reads, and I'll put a little picture of it here, I read Amid the Clouds and Bones, which is a fairy fantasy romance, more fairy than fae. And this book was such a mind bender in a very interesting way. So like it was so classically book talk tropes, but the author put such a spin on each and every single one of those tropes that she gave us. She Uno reversed us like multiple times to the point where like I was like dizzy. I got like seasickness because she kept like spinning and spinning and spinning me around, and it was just kind of delightful in a way to have that. Like it's okay, so it's about this girl who is in an arranged marriage. She has been since she was a little kid. She's a human to, oh no, she's not a human. She's a halfling, and it's kind of looked down upon. She's an illegitimate child, but she's in an arranged marriage to a fairy prince, and by like you get a little piece of them like as their kids, and they have this like tit for tat like enemy-ish relationship. Like they both don't want to be in this arranged marriage and they just decide to make the worst possible like they just, instead of like trying to make the best of a situation, they try to make the worst of the situation. But then she finally comes of age, and like she's supposed to be getting married, and she like goes to like live with this fairy prince. I kept calling him the rat prince because I was kind of doing like I was on a plane when I was reading it, so I couldn't post what like on times, but I did save all of the reactions that I would have posted and post them when I had landed. But I kept calling him the rat prince because he was like a little rat, like a slimy little rat, and I didn't like him. I didn't like him just because he was such a jerk. Like for no reason he was such a jerk, and I just don't like those kind of characters. Like I just don't like those in an MMC. Like I don't like bully romances really, but I'll read them every once in a while, but the whole time I'm just like kind of grumbly about it. But I was kind of just like whatever, and then finally, okay, so like the plot of the story is like there's like the Seelie and the Unseelie, and currently right now the Unseelie are trapped in their realm. They're not allowed to like leave because of like an old war or whatever. And there's like a prophecy that the wards can break if they find a way to break this cold-hearted Seelie prince's heart. Like that was the contingency of the ward, which is just stupid. And they do say like it is kind of stupid, but they also say like magic needs like a loophole, and that was the loophole because everybody thought that this rat prince could never have a heart, and so like that they kind of made it like a joke on them. Anyways, she ends up getting like kidnapped, and you meet this other prince, and he has wings and shadow magic, and there are dragons, and this whole plot, and I won't give it away because it's just, it was a delightful read. I almost feel like I should make like a whole video on it, but I don't think I will. I don't know why I won't, but I don't think I will. Mostly because like I just want to talk about the spoilers of it all, and I won't do that. But just like read this book just to have like, just to be spun around, you know? That's the fun of it. There is spice. And yeah, me and the Rat Prince went through quite a transformation because I like didn't like him, but then I at one point stopped not liking him, but I couldn't figure out why I didn't like him because nothing about him really changed, but I think I changed, which was the weirdest part of it all. And it has a really surprisingly sweet ending, and yeah, I'm just delighted to be surprised every once in a while by something that is objectively cliche. Speaking of Kindle reads, I actually read this on Kindle first, and then I bought a physical copy as a trophy because I just loved it so much. And it's A Kingdom of Dreams by Judith McNaught. And okay, there's a few things I want to talk about this book. Because okay, it made me a little bit mad when I first, so I literally Googled because I couldn't find anything on my usual channels of trying to find a book to read at night. I wanted to read a historical romance, because as you will see, there's a theme here when I talk about the next book, and every winter I just get into a historical romance mood. I just want to read, like, they're cozy to me and warm and snuggly, and I like them, especially when there's a lot of snow outside, which there really is. And so I literally Googled heart-wrenching, emotional, historical romances with smut. And I did find a list. And I picked like the first book that I found. And it was this book. And then I was like looking into it, and it turns out it was like the second in a series, and I couldn't tell if they were standalones or not, because the male main character is Royce Westmoreland, Duke of Claymore. And then the other book that this author has written in this series, he is the something Claymore of Westermore. Like it was like inversed and like mixed up, and I was so confused. I could not figure out if it was like the first book or the second book, and then I tried to start reading this book, just being like, whatever, maybe it's interconnected standalones, and I was not really sure if I was just being dropped in the middle of everything or if I was missing an entire book of pretext. And so I did a little bit more digging, and I found out that there's actually 2 different reading orders to this series. So, like, on top of this mismatched name BS, there's also a reading order BS. So one of them is like publication order, and one of them is timeline order. And so this is timeline order the first book, but not publication order the first book, which is almost infuriating to the point where I didn't even want to read the book, because it was making me so mad that I couldn't figure out if I should be reading this one or not. But I ended up just reading it anyways. And I'm so happy I did, because it's a historical romance, but it's not like typical historical romances in the sense of what era it was set in. They were like knights and medieval-esque timing. And yeah, so that was really fun for me. And this book is actually, it turns out the author did a lot of like historical research into making sure this book was historically accurate to a commendable amount. Like, obviously she took a lot of liberties, but for the most part she tried to be like historically accurate. And with that, I need to make some preferences. I absolutely loved this book. Did it make me cry? Like, no, but it was heart-wrenching enough. Like, it wasn't what I was going for, but I'm still happy I went. That kind of thing. Like being invited to a party you don't really want to go to, but then you go to it and you do meet some cool people and you actually did have a fun time. That's kind of how I felt about this book. So this Jennifer is Scottish, and she is in hiding kind of during the war, because she is she's the daughter of one of the Scottish clan leaders who are at war with England at the time, and she and her little sister get abducted by one of the English, what are they called? Hang on, I have to look at the back. One of the English armies, not by the wolf, which is what he goes by, the Black Wolf, not by Royce, but his brother. They see an opportunity and take it, and then they bring these like 2 girls to the head of the army, and he's like, what am I supposed to do with them? And they're like, let's keep them as hostages. And he's like, that is an awful idea, but they had already kind of done it, and so they couldn't just let them go because it would like hurt the pride of the English army, basically, which is a theme for the book. And Jenny just runs absolute circles. She is a menace to society. She may be captured, but they're kind of the prey in this situation. And yeah, she gets out of captivity, and her and her sister do, but then they get re-caught again, and then there's just like a lot of little shenanigans that happen. Like her and her sister just like play the girl card, and they're like, oh, they're just girls, and we're like, we're just girls, and then they get out and get, like, they just do things, and it's kind of hilarious. But I need to say something, because when I was reading it, I just had historical romance goggles on, and that means they're rose-colored. I don't see red flags. I see no issue in dubious consent or age gaps. I don't see anything. I just have feet-kicking good time. And I wrote a big, long written review for, like, all of the sites that I post my reviews to, and I posted mine to Fable. And for some reason, Fable thought that I needed to see all of the 1-star reviews, and I think Fable was chastising me, because the second I started reading these 1-star reviews, because curiosity, I was like, how could anyone find anything wrong with this book? It was so well written, like, there was smut. It has such a, like, sweet and good ending between Royce and Jenny. Oh my, he would literally die for her, and he almost died. Oh, I just can't even with him. I want one of my own, and I kind of have one of my own, but also I just want him. Sorry, my husband. But anyways, I was reading through the reviews, and they're like, the age gap is literally criminal. He is dubious, and blah, blah. The first time that they do anything, it's like a bargain. And I was just like, oh, I think I'm the problem. Because I, with my full chest in my review, was like, I think he's an honorable and good man. And he's kind of not. Like, there's some stuff that happens in this book, and yeah, I think I need to be on a list of people you shouldn't trust to tell you who's a good man. Because I love him, and I still love him, and I still love their relationship, and I would 100% reread this right now in this sitting, just because I had such a good time. And it's like, I feel like it's gonna be a comfort read to me. But just to like put myself on a little defense here, it's historically accurate, which, you know, okay. And also, it was written like 36 years ago. So, like, yeah, today's standard, people would have an issue with it. But it wasn't written today. And it wasn't set in today. So I don't care. And I might be the problem. Okay, so let me redeem myself in the historical romance genre all in one go. This is The Wayward Duke. It was sent to me by Bloomsbury, but I don't know if it's like a publishing house under Bloomsbury. And it says it's an arc and it comes out in January, but it also like says that it came out in October. So I actually don't know when this book comes out. I have no idea. I tried to look into it and I just got confused. So this is The Wayward Duke, and it is under 250 pages. Yeah, it's under 250 pages, and it's a second chance romance. So this is really interesting because they are already married, and they've been married for almost 9 years, and for 8 of those 9 years, they have been separated. And the Duke comes home not knowing that his wife is in their London townhouse because he's in between places and he's going to be traveling, and so he's just going to like stop there for a little while. But then she's there, and they're both like, crap, if we're both here and society like just thinks we're a weird couple, we have to pretend that we like each other. Ugh. But also, he is a code breaker for the queen. And she's a genius. Like, she's a genius. They both speak, like, 10 plus languages, and they're great with math and puzzles and stuff like that. And so she ends up helping him crack these codes for to take down a terrorist. And she's a badass. I love her. Women are great. Also, this man has incredible stamina. Incredible stamina. I was a little bit concerned for the well-being of these two people by the amount of screwing they did in such little time. But I liked it. So I think I didn't really realize I was going to be a second chance romance girly, but I think I am, because it's very angsty and very sad, and like This book really does embody that Taylor Swift lyric, like, nobody teaches you what to do when a good man hurts you and you know you hurt him too. Like, that's the vibes of this book, and I would absolutely read more second chance romances, and if you have any, please give them to me, because I feel like I need that. For some reason, I like to hurt when I read, if you didn't know by, like, me literally Googling heart-wrenching historical romance of smut. Like, I just need that. And if you have any recommendations, like, please give them to me. Speaking of arcs, I read an arc of, and it is out now, Heavenly Bodies. This is, I have a whole video dedicated to this book, but just quickly, if you don't want to watch that whole video and you're just kind of curious what I thought about it, I really enjoyed it. I was not wowed by it, but it was relatively unique and fun, and I'm very curious to see how the next book goes. This is like celestial magic, and like the stars are kind of like gods, and they're trying to take down one of the stars. There's prophecies. She is the shadow mommy, he is the sunlight boy, and they train together to take down this big bad, even though they are warring countries. Again, I really liked it. I just wasn't wowed by it, and I felt like there was a lot of, as I said in the video, productive lollygagging throughout it. Like, they were doing things that moved the plot, but it was kind of like, oh yeah, we have to go to another ball, and while we're there we have to kiss, and like, oh, I got some information while I was there, but like the point of the ball was not to, like, the author wrote it for them to go and get information, but she really wrote it so that they would have a kissy scene, and like that's, and you kind of felt like that. And there was also some very interesting lines that I cringed at, but again, it was really good, and a lot of people really love it, and I can see why they really love it. This was not supposed to be the last book that I read in January, but it did. The last book that I was supposed to read in January was supposed to be Iron and Embers, which is the spin-off series from Blood and Steel, which I'm very, very excited to read. But I made a New Year's goal this year, and that was to start reading, to put fae and fairy romance, fantasy romances, excuse me, back into my rotation, because last year I really tried to step away from them, and I wasn't not reading them, but I wasn't reading them at the same time, and that's because the market has become wildly oversaturated with fae and fairies, and the problem is not the books and not the authors, it's the readers for not diversifying and branching out into other things. And what can happen is, if you read too many fairy romances back to back to back to back, you can almost, the plagiarism kind of thoughts start spinning, and you're like, oh, they're just copying, and that's not really fair. Really, I think that has to do with like not branching out and not diversifying as a reader, because you pick the books that you read and you're responsible for your own media consumption. And so I tried really, really hard to stop reading fae romances, so that when I go back to reading them again, they can feel fun and fresh and exciting. But because I have so many of them now stacked on my physical TBR, I'm running into a problem where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna read like a bunch of them in one go and just like binge and then not read any more for another year. That doesn't seem right. So I made myself promise that I would do a non-fae romance and then a contemporary romance, whether a series or just one, and then do a fae book. So I had gone the entire month reading contemporary and non-fae romances, and I needed to really just get back into the faeness. But here's the thing. I really want to read Iron and Embers, so I was in I was a little bit stuck on what to pick to read, and I only had like 2 days to actually meet my reading goal, because if I meet my reading goal every month this year, then I will meet my reading goal for the whole year. So I have to read 8 books every month so I can meet my reading goal, which is 104 books this year. And I'm taking it very seriously, especially for the first month. You can't just not, I just had to at least start off well, you know? I can't say for the rest of the year, I can't speak for future me, but I had to try, and I did, and I'm proud of myself. But I needed to pick my last read, and I needed something that I could read in 2 days. And I really want to read the Lady of Darkness series, which is a fae romance. but it's a completed series, and I know I'm gonna want to read all of them in one go because I feel like I just miss reading a completed series. It's been a while for me, but I really want to read Iron Embers. So I had to pick a fae book that I could read in 2 days that doesn't have any books out yet currently or a standalone, so that I could read Iron Embers next. And so I picked this book because book 2 has just been announced and it comes highly, highly recommended. And I was very, very excited to read it, and I had it, and I just was like, you know what, it's time. So I did it. That was a long walk for a short drink of water. So this book is exactly what you would think of. It's fairies, not fae. There's a little more whimsical, a little bit more close to like folklore-esque rather than just like, you know, sexy immortals with wings kind of thing. And this is about a human who gets into the fae realm somewhat on accident. She wasn't supposed to go, but she did. And because she wasn't really supposed to be there, but they're like, we could just kill her. And then they're like, it'd be funny for a joke is we make her be the maid servant to the heir of House Earth. So there's elemental magic in courts, basically, houses. And it's supposed to be kind of a snub, but it actually works out in this one girl's favor, to be honest. And so there are trials, but she's not technically the one competing in the trials. She's helping the person compete in the trials. And it's very interestingly done. So it's like very quintessential fae romances, trials, bargains, fairy nonsense. But it's also kind of done as like she's not technically the heroine of the story. She's the supporting role, technically. And she ends up becoming like a spy because there's a revolution. All of the fae are stuck underground by a big bad, and they're trying to overthrow the big bad. And it's just done like it's nothing new, but it's done really well. Like really, really well, and I really liked it. I will say, and I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I do have a theory about the love interest, and I'm glad that I think I'm right because the author did not sell me on the love interest. In fact, she did the exact opposite. I did not like the love interest, and I have my eyes set on somebody else, and I'm hoping that I'm right, because if I'm not, like, as much as I love women, and I love the women in this book and the girl power and the girl friendships, and like that's really what the story is more about, I don't think I can deal with another book with the one love interest being the love interest, because I just feel like I'll have to tap out, unfortunately, which I don't think I will have to, so I'm happy about that. And I wish I could talk spoilers, and I might do a whole video on this book series, or on this book, and I might do a little bit spoilers at the end for somebody who's read them, but yeah, I really liked it. It's very, very good, and I'm very, very excited to see the rest of the series because it has some of my favorite types of magic, which you don't get to see very often in fantasy, and I'm very excited for that. So that's what I read in January, and this is the books that are coming out in February that are on my radar. There's only 3. It's kind of a slow month, which is interesting because it's like, you know, Valentine's Day, romancy. Like, I should be being romanced by books right now, and I'm not being romanced by books. But the first week of February, Deep End is coming out. I will never forgive Allie's publishers for not giving us Wet, because that's the perfect name. I'm sorry, it's the perfect name. And it's gonna be a standalone. It comes out on the 4th. I already have it pre-ordered. I'm excited for it. I love anything written by Allie Hazelwood, and I will be sure to do a video when I finish reading it, because I'm going to eat it up. Week 3, No Rest for the Wicked comes out, which is book 2 of Interconnected Standalones. I have the first one right here. These are a republish of like, when was this book first published? It was originally published in 2006, so it does give off early 2000s paranormal romance nonsense. These books are very, very fun. They are not properly trigger warned, and I feel like they should be, especially with the republishing. There is definite non-con, which is consent non-consent. This is very much dubious consent. This is very much dark romance, and it's not presented that way, and it really should be, in my opinion. But it is really fun. Just for like the fun paranormal early 2000s nonsense, it's amazing. There are Valkyries in this, werewolves, vampires, just fun all around. They're interconnected standalones. And I think I just really like these books just because they're just like a fun time. You know, they're just a fun time. Like, don't take it too seriously. I already with whatever book. Oh yeah, here it is. I already realized that I am the problem when it comes to dubious men doing dubious things that would probably get them sent to jail. But I'm fine with that, and I'd probably break them out. But it's fiction, it's fine, okay? It's fiction, it's fine. So that is coming out, and that, oh, there's one more book. I said there was 3, and that was only 2. Ooh, don't drop these books. That would be bad. People call you a bad book owner, which I kinda am. I lost a book. It's a story for another day. But I lost a book. I did find it, but I've never lost a book before. A book I hadn't even read. That's the craziest part of it. It wasn't like I was currently reading it and I misplaced it. I haven't even read it yet, and I lost it. Insane. In the 4th week, the last week of February, Kiss of the Basilisk is coming out, which is a repub again of a book. It was originally indie published as Split. I keep saying spit. Every time I talk about this book, I say spit or swallow because it makes sense to me, but it's split or swallow. This book is not for everybody. It almost wasn't even for me, but I did end up having a really good time. I haven't finished it because it's just not a book that... It's straight. It's really just erotica, and that's it. Like, there's a plot, but the plot is also the spice, and I just really need to be in a certain mood for that kind of thing, and I haven't really been lately. And now I'm kind of like, well, maybe I'll just read the ending of the traditionally published version of it. Yeah. So that, it was originally Split or Swallow, now it's Kiss of the Basilisk, and it has a new cover and everything, and it looks like it's going to be fun, and I hope that it gets into the right hands, because I feel like if it goes into the wrong hands, it's going to become one of those, like, funny trends where people can't, like, read it, but they're kind of, like, making fun of why they're reading it, and I really don't want that, because it is really, like, gorgeously written erotica. It kind of feels like a sexy oil painting from like the 1600s almost. Like, that's what it feels like to read this book when you have that mindset. But yeah, I'm actually really impressed. Bloom Books acquired it, which was really just surprising to me, because like again, this book is very interesting all around, and I mean, just proud of this author and what she's done, and I think it's really cool, and I'm really excited for her, and I'm really excited to see how the trad published book reflects with the indie published book. If they change anything, I'll be interested to see that. So that's what's coming out in February, and that's what I read in January. Did you meet if you're doing goals for 2025, do you stack your goals into little goals so that you can like bite your goal into like one thing? Like, that's what I do. I don't know why. It just makes it easier for my brain to like comprehend. Did you meet your reading goal for the month? Are you on track, is what I should say? And also, what should I read for a Fae book? But after, I think I'm gonna do Lady of Darkness. Like, I know I said I was going to, but I'm also a mood reader, so I'm like, ooh, is that the one that I want to start off with, or is there a different one that I should start off with when getting back? Like, but it is a completed series, and I think I miss completed series. I like following along with an author, and I like, a good cliffhanger, and I like waiting for a book, but I just haven't read a completed series in a really, really long time. Like, maybe years at this point. So I think it'll be kind of fun. It might feel weird, though, to just, like, get an ending. As somebody who has, like, abandonment issues that bleeds into her reading, because, like, it's right there, I can see it, mocking me. I have like the Dawn of Onyx series that I really, really like, is completed, and I have not read the third book because I'm just like, I just don't want it to end. I just don't know how to end things anymore. I've lost my ability of closure. Okay. Bye.